Discipline over reaction is the decision to choose long-term control instead of short-term relief. Reaction feels good in the moment. It gives the ego release. It feels like strength because it's loud and immediate. Discipline feels uncomfortable at first because it asks you to pause, restrain, and delay gratification. But discipline is what keeps you moving forward when reaction would pull you off course. Most people live reactively. They wake up reacting to messages, reacting to moods, reacting to circumstances they didn't plan for. One bad comment ruins their focus. One delay kills their motivation. One emotional spike dictates their entire day. Reaction turns life into a series of uncontrolled responses. Discipline turns life into a direction. Reaction is automatic. Discipline is trained. Reaction is driven by emotion. Discipline is driven by intention. Reaction asks, how do I feel right now? Discipline asks, what serves my future? The gap between those two questions is where growth happens. When something triggers you, the body reacts before the mind has time to think. Heart rate increases. Muscles tense. Thoughts narrow. This is where most people act. Discipline steps in at this exact moment. It slows the process. It creates a pause between stimulus and response. In that pause, you regain control. The reaction is easy because it requires no effort. Discipline is hard because it requires awareness. You have to notice the urge to react. You have to resist it. You have to choose a response that may not feel satisfying in the moment but protects your long-term goals. That resistance is where strength is built. Every reactive decision trades future progress for present comfort. Snapping back feels good for seconds but creates consequences that last longer. Quitting when frustrated relieves pressure but delays growth. Avoiding discomfort feels safe but keeps you small. Discipline accepts discomfort as part of the process. People often confuse discipline with rigidity. In reality, discipline creates flexibility. When you are not controlled by reactions, you can adapt calmly. You can change strategy without emotional attachment. You can accept feedback without taking it personally. Reaction locks you into ego. Discipline keeps you objective. Discipline over reaction changes how you handle stress. Stressful situations don't disappear, but your response becomes cleaner. Instead of panicking, you prioritize. Instead of complaining, you execute. Instead of blaming, you adjust. Stress becomes a signal, not a threat. In conflict, reaction escalates. Disciplina deescalates. Reaction turns disagreement into ego warfare. Discipline keeps the focus on resolution. You stop trying to win emotionally and start trying to win strategically. Reaction seeks validation. Discipline builds self-respect. When you react, you are often performing for others, trying to be seen, heard, or justified. Discipline is internal. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need approval. It operates whether anyone is watching or not. Most regret comes from reaction. Words said too fast. Decisions made too emotionally. Actions taken without thinking. Discipline prevents regret by slowing you down before damage is done. Discipline also compounds. One disciplined response makes the next one easier. Over time, discipline becomes your default. What once required effort becomes natural. Reaction weakens with lack of use. People who prioritize discipline appear calm under pressure, not because they don't feel emotion, but because they've practiced restraint. They've trained themselves to stay steady while emotions pass through instead of taking over. Reaction drains energy. Discipline conserves it. Emotional reactions consume focus and mental bandwidth. Discipline channels energy toward action instead of drama. Discipline over reaction also sharpens identity. You become someone who can be trusted with responsibility, pressure, and leadership. Others feel safe around consistency. They respect predictability rooted in discipline, not volatility driven by mood. Reaction is often fueled by ego. Discipline is fueled by purpose. Ego wants to defend, prove, and dominate. Purpose wants progress. When purpose leads, reaction loses influence. In moments of temptation, reaction says yes to what feels good now. Discipline says no to protect what matters later. That ability to delay gratification separates those who plateau from those who build something lasting. Discipline doesn't eliminate emotion, it organizes it. Emotion becomes information, not instruction. You still feel anger, excitement, fear, and doubt, but they no longer decide your behavior. Reaction keeps you busy. Discipline keeps you effective. Reaction creates motion without direction. Discipline creates direction with controlled motion. When discipline leads, consistency becomes possible. You show up regardless of mood. You work regardless of motivation. You act regardless of applause. This consistency builds results quietly over time. Reaction is loud but short-lived. Discipline is quiet but durable. One creates chaos. The other creates structure. Discipline over reaction is choosing to be governed by values instead of impulses. It is choosing control over comfort. It is choosing who you want to become over what you feel in the moment. The more disciplined your responses become, the less control the outside world has over your internal state. Triggers lose power. Provocations lose effectiveness. Distractions lose grip. Discipline creates distance between you and chaos. It allows you to observe situations instead of being swallowed by them. It keeps your actions aligned with your standards even when emotions try to pull you off path. When discipline becomes your habit, reaction becomes the exception. You stop being ruled by circumstances and start shaping outcomes. You stop living defensively and start living deliberately. This choice is made daily, often in small moments that seem insignificant. Choosing not to react. Choosing to wait, choosing to think, choosing to stay composed, those small choices accumulate into a mindset that cannot be easily shaken.